Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 1099 filing workshop here at uManage. We're so grateful that you could join us today. We got a lot of information to go over, so I'm going to go ahead. We're going to get started, but I just wanted to say a quick hello to everyone. Hi, hi. If you have joined us before in webinars, welcome back. If you have never joined us before, all right. So right now you should be able to see my Unify home screen in our demo site. So to start off, when talking about 1099 information, what we first want to do is we want to make certain that certain items are set up within uManage. And there are about four major areas that I recommend checking on. First place I would recommend going is Firm and Manage Firm page. You want to go over to the Preferences tab, and you want to scroll down to Accounting, and where it says Federal Tax ID number, you want to make certain that you've got the Federal Tax ID number for the company in that position. Then you're going to scroll down a little further, and you're going to want to get to AP settings. And we're going to go to the 1096 settings section. And there are just a few items to fill out. This is the contact information if the IRS needs to contact, who they need to contact. So you put that information in there, the name, phone number, email, and fax number. When you're done there, you're going to click Save. The next place we're going to go is the Association page. So we're going to go Association, Manage Associations. And here you just need to make certain that you have tax ID numbers for your associations. If you are an existing management company, you probably have all or most of that information entered. What you may just want to do is double check any new associations that you've entered throughout the past year. Just go in and make certain that you provided it with a federal tax ID number, and that's going to go right there. Also, you want to make certain that you have the detailed information. So address, city, state, zip, and phone. You want to make sure all of that is in there as well. We're going to be pulling parts of that out to send to Nelco. And on some of these things, your file will be rejected if they're not in there. As for the detailed information, a lot of companies just use their address. You don't have to have a separate address for each individual association. You may not even want one unless perhaps a specific association has its own on-site office. So I leave that to you guys to decide how you want to do that. But as far as I've noticed, just putting the management company's information in this spot should work just fine. The next items that you want to double check is go to Accounting, AP, in the Manage Vendor page, and you are going to pull your vendor up, and you need to make certain if they need to get a 1099, you have to have the 1099 flag turned on, as well as the tax ID number in this position here. And it has to be a real tax ID number. Nelco has a way to suss out the ones that are fake, and they might kick them back. So make sure you got a good tax ID number in there. Make sure that the 1099 flag is turned on if that vendor does indeed need to get a 1099. Now, if you have questions as to whether or not your vendor should get a 1099, those are better questions to either direct to the IRS, or you can direct those to the CPA that you work with. Those would be better people to answer that. That's not really something we could answer. If you do know that a vendor does need to get it, these two items have to be in place. Now, obviously, especially for those of you who have a lot of vendors, you're not going to want to go vendor by vendor by vendor, pull that up and see if it's right. There should be a button on your screen labeled Materials. I have added some helpful reports in there, and some of those reports are vendor-related reports that you can double check. The tax ID numbers are in there, as well as 1099 button clicked on. That's one way you can do it. So I do have a couple helpful reports in there, so feel free to review that information and see if that works for you. When you're done, you click Save. The last thing you want to check are your chart of accounts. So we're going to go to Accounting, Financial, and we're going to go to Chart of Accounts. Every general ledger account that you've paid an invoice out of needs to be connected to a 1099 category. Now, in uManage, we created the categories to correspond to a specific box on a 1099. So this non-employee compensation, which probably most of you will be using, but again, that is confirmation that you do need to get from CPA or from information that you can glean from the IRS.gov. Not anything we can really help you with. We can help you set it when you know we wouldn't be able to make those kind of recommendations as to where it needs to fall. But I will tell you that most of our companies do use non-employee compensation, and that is a 1099-NEC, and that's box 1 on that form. Whatever you are expensing here, that vendor needs a 1099, that is where the amount will drop. We do support MISCs as well. So what we have in here are all the different categories that are associated with either the 1099 MISC or 1099 NEC. Depending on what you pick, that's how the system will know what box to put it in and what form to print for you. We also have pre-programmed in there the minimum amounts that are needed. So if you have for reserve here and you say that it's an NEC, the system already knows it has to be at least $600. So if you have vendor Bob and you pay him $570 throughout 2025, the system's going to know not to pull vendor Bob in for a 1099, because even though he's flagged for one, and even though this general ledger number is going to hit 1099 NEC, system knows not enough money though, so we don't need to pull that in. When you're done with that, click Save. So what I normally would recommend is have all these values set as soon as you're uploading your general ledger. And if you're copying general ledgers from other associations for a new association, it might all be in there. You want to double check that quickly. You can go to Reports, and then you can go to Accounting, and then you can click on the chart of accounts, pick the association you want to look at, put them in whatever order that you want to. So I'm going to say ascending by GL account number. And then you can see right here in the 1099 category where everything is slated to go. Now, obviously, I've got these attached to asset and liability accounts. Often doesn't really matter in that situation, because when you expense items, you're normally taking them from expenses, but you never know. So I am more comfortable with making sure everything's labeled 1099 so I don't miss anything. When you guys are doing this, do whatever you feel comfortable with and you think your team will understand best. And the nice thing about this item here, if you needed to, you could drop this into an Excel or a CSV. I prefer CSV because it's raw data and I don't have to worry about getting rid of formatting. Again, you guys use whatever works best for you and your team. You drop that in there. This will drop into a CSV file. And then when you get all the categories looking the way you want them to look, you come back in to the administration and import data page. And you can click on update mode, and then you can upload those changes back into uManage. Chart of accounts, right? My apologies, I almost missed it. Chart of accounts. So you can just go here, you can upload all those changes. If your chart of account already exists in uManage, make sure you click on update mode because you're changing the information that is currently there as opposed to uploading new records. And then when you do that, you should be good to go. The only extra things that I might recommend that you take care of before you start processing your 1099s, if you have received any new associations during the year, or if you're a brand new company with us this year, you can take 1099 amounts from your old system. You can import those or enter those, depending on what you think will work best, into uManage, and that will allow you to send your vendors one 1099 instead of them getting a 1099 out of each of those systems. And you're going to do that on the accounting, AP, 1099 processing, and then additional vendor amounts. So pick your association and then the year. So in this case, it's going to be 2025 because we're doing 1099s for 2025. Click search. It's going to bring up all your vendors. And then you can get in here and you can click on the pencil next to Mark's rug cleaning, excuse me. And then you can enter in that 1099 information, whatever, again, box it would need to hit. So maybe this one is actually rents. So I put that in there. I would also, yeah, we got non-employee compensation on here as well. Sorry, right there. You can use that if that's the one you need. You can also use this to make corrections to the amount. Maybe you paid a vendor $6,000 and you overpaid them, so they sent you a check back for $500. You can go in here and then you can correct that by that $500 because you paid them 6,000, but you overpaid them by 500. So you can enter that in here so it will correctly reflect the value that they received. You also can do that when you're making your journal entries. There is an option to pull in the vendor and it can record as well. And let me show you that very quickly. I'm going to go to the accounting financial manage journal entry page. And if I go in and I click add entry, there's a spot down here that will allow you to pick the vendor that you're working with. So if you got a deposit in and you wanted to post that deposit into the cash account and offset expense, you could tell the system this is for Nelco vendor training 2. Tell it what the GL account is you want it to affect, and that should alter that 1099 amount. So you can do it like this during the year while as they come in, or you can make changes on that additional vendor amounts page, however you want to do it. Additionally, if you want to record these entries, again, if you're a new association or a new company, you can do them here manually on the additional vendor amounts page, or you can decide on the administration and import data page, you want to pull that information in with a spreadsheet. If you choose the additional 1099 amount entity, then you can download a template, and these are the items that will need to be on the template, and you can import those amounts into uManage. So again, importing these amounts are going to be for payments you've made outside of uManage, either out of your old system if you're brand new to uManage this year, or if you just brought on some new associations during 2025, those amounts can either be entered in manually or can be imported into uManage, thereby allowing you to send your vendors one 1099 instead of 1099s. That's most of the housekeeping that you might want to consider doing in uManage. Again, I've got some materials out there for you guys, some things for you to look at, some setup information so that you can get into all these different screens just to make certain you have access to them. Some helpful information, uploading 1099 information and some reports to review, and just some things like that. I also have an outline of what we're going to be going over today, if you guys want to look at that as well while we're going. So once you've gone in, you've checked everything out, you've looked at everything, amounts look good, everything's set up properly, you're comfortable with what you have, then you can get ready to download your information from Nelco. And we are going to do that on the accounting, AP, 1099 processing. We're going to go to 1099, process 1099 forms. So go ahead and click on that. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to change my year to 2025. And then under association, I'm going to decide which associations I want to pull the data for. Now I can go ahead and tell it I want to look at everybody. What I will tell you about importing information into Nelco, the more you import, the lower the amount you will pay. So they do charge by volume. You give them a bunch, you pay less. You can also do it one association at a time, or you can do it multiple associations at a time, whichever you prefer. So I'm going to pick a couple for the purposes of this demonstration. Grab that one, and then we'll also grab Sudden Valley 3. And once I have my parameters chosen, I'm going to click search. So I have a handful of vendors here that might need to get a 1099. At this particular point in time, I can decide to go ahead and use all of them, or I can just use a few. Again, the more you import and process at a time, the responsibility, the less you will pay. Leave that up to you guys. What works best for you and your team. And then I'm going to click on generate Nelco file. It's going to process. And when it's done, it's going to let me know that it's processed the information and give me the opportunity to download it. What it did is it processed a couple of files for me. And depending on what it is you're doing, how you see it, in this case, since I had NEC and MISC information, I processed a zip file with the two HTML files in it. If I just had NEC information, then all it would do is just produce this one file. So now that we have those processed, we're going to import them into Nelco. So let me pull Nelco up for you really quickly here. This is the Nelco homepage. I have the website for you in the setup information, but it's eunified.nelco. And that link will be there for you. You can just click on that. It'll take you to Nelco if this is the first time you've used it. If you used it in the past, you should be able just to reactivate your old login. But if you have not used it in the past, you will need to put in your email, create a password, and there's going to be some additional information that will be provided to you when they do that. I have been requested by Nelco to ask you guys to please read over that as early as you can before you agree to it. When we're done, we'll click login. If you want to kind of maybe poke around a little bit, I recommend starting with the How It Works tab. And this will give you just a quick breakdown of what's going to happen to your data once you import it into Nelco. And it'll give you some additional information. But the thing that you're probably going to really want to take a look at is the pricing for 2025. All of that is given to you up front. And as you can see here, the bigger the file that you have, the less you pay. So import it however you need to import it. But I will tell you, the bigger the file, the more money you'll save. And then down here at the bottom, it's got some important information. If you wait until the 30th or the 31st, you will have to pay an extra $1 per form filing. And then they have a link here that I believe links you to irs.gov, which will give you some information on your filing deadlines or any other types of things that you need. So this is a very helpful page to start off with, and I highly recommend. If you just want to get a feel for what Nelco will do for you, this is a good page to start with. All right, so I'm going back to File and Home. And then once I'm here, now that I'm ready to import in my file, I'm going to start with the for data. Click there. And then it's going to give me the option to choose the file. So I'm going to go grab the file that I created for Nelco. And then I'm going to import. Now, as you can see, this has given me a lot of errors. I knew it was going to give me a lot of errors, and I created some of these errors so we could see what it looks like, and then we can walk through them. But when you do get errors, when you're importing in your data, what you need to do is you need to review these errors, figure out where the problem is, and then go fix it in uManage. This is telling us, for instance, our association name Olive Garden phone number has an invalid value. So we got to go check that. Again, a couple issues with the phone, so we'll go take a look at that here in a moment. Could be issues with the individual vendors as well. So what you just need to do is when you see these error messages, just go back into uManage and make the fixes needed. So let's do that. And then once you make those fixes, you are going to have to download that file again and then import it back into Nelco. So what I've seen in error messages over the years, the one that I've noticed the most problem with is the state. It has to be the state abbreviation. If I spelled out Texas or I forgot Texas, it's going to flag it as an error. That's the one that I've seen most people have problems with. So as long as you're making certain that in any place a state could be, it's the abbreviation, not spelled out word, that will help you out there. On the association side, phone numbers, I often kick those out, so make certain you have a good phone number in for all of your associations. Basically, going through a lot of that setup information that I gave you at the beginning to double check, that'll help with a lot of these errors. And the ones that slip through the cracks, you can always go back and drill down on later. So in order to fix the vendor information, because I noticed there were some problems with how do you want this, I'm going to go to my accounting AP, go to the manage vendor page, and then I'm going to pull up that vendor. And yeah, I got Texas spelled out. So I'm going to change that to the state abbreviation, which should fix that problem, and save it again. And if I go back and I click search to make certain I didn't miss anything else in here, I think everything else looked pretty good. Completely missed the state altogether. So yeah, a lot of problems with that one. And then on the association side, I noticed that it didn't like the phone number for Olive Garden. So I'm going to go over here to the association and manage associations page. I'm going to find Olive Garden, and I can do that by typing it in contains. If I have a lot of associations I have to parse through to get there more quickly, click on the pencil to edit. And then where it says phone, I'm going to enter a phone number and then click save. All right. So now that I have completed that, I can go back and I can regenerate this file. Just to stay on the safe side, I'm not going to regenerate everything. We're just going to take a couple of these items. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to regenerate the Nelco file again. So now I'm just going to pull these up really quickly. And then we'll head back over to Nelco. And then I'll go back to the import data page. I will again click on use file, and I'll bring in the file that I just created. Now I save mine in my downloads file. That's where I pull mine from. You guys can pull it from wherever you want that storage. You can store it in file structure. You can store it in your desktop. You can store it in the downloads folder like I do. It's whatever works best for you and your team, whatever's going to be easier for you guys to find. Then I'm going to click import. And then it's still going to give me a couple of errors. All right, so this means I got to go back and fix that. And so for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead. I'll just fix a couple items on the association side, and we'll hit this again. Sometimes it's what you have to do. You just have to process it. If those errors corrected, process it again. If a couple more pops out, correct those until you got them all addressed, and then you can get your file uploaded. Now, I will point out that Nelco can often recognize items that we use, especially on my side, because I'm creating fake associations, fake vendors for training. So it can identify when I'm just putting in random information there and knows it's not real. What Nelco cannot do is take your 1099 data that you're presenting, take that tax ID number and compare it to the vendor information and determine whether it's good or not. IRS will do that when they get it, but that's not something that Nelco can do. We're on this import data page. I imported in the file. I'm going to click import. So it's going to bring everything in. I decided to go with the one vendor just so we can get some data in here. So you're going to have a couple options when sending your 1099 data. This is going to show you the forms in process. It's going to show you by association and which vendors there are for. It's also going to show you the bundling information. So this is bundled to provide federal e-filing, recipient mail, and online retrieval for the recipient. So what that generally means is not only will they get it in the mail, but they will have the option to log in and pull their 1099 for themselves. You don't have to use this option. It is $12.88, roughly $6.44 per all in. So if you don't want to utilize this, you can decide just to go for an a la carte service, and maybe you just want to do the federal e-filing. So the system will go in and it will adjust down that total for that. But if you add back in recipient mail and online retrieval, you're actually up to about $14.32. So the bundle is better pricing for all your documents. Or if you all you want to send is the federal e-filing through Nelco, you can do that. But just bear in mind, you will have to have a way to get vendors their 1099 copies. So if you decide to electronically file IRS using Nelco, but you don't want to do it for your vendors, you're going to have to mail those out separately. So once you're done, you've got everything picked. If you want to make any changes here, you can. You can unselect vendors, and that one won't process through. If they're good the way they are, then go ahead and click next. This will give you an opportunity to enter in an email address if maybe that didn't come over from Unify. If you don't have an email address in there, if you want to add it here, you can. More than likely, if you have a lot, you're not going to want to try to go through and parse through all that, but it's not the worst idea to make sure you have email addresses on file for your vendors. If you do, they'll pull in. If not, it'll come up blank. Click next again, and then it's giving me another look at the forms that are submitted. If you want, you can click here and you can actually preview the way the forms are going to look going out. This is just peek at the 1099s, and then you can also see a summary of what you have processed. This comes out, I believe, this is in PDF, sorry. So we can take just a quick look at that, and it's just a summary of what it is you're sending. Now, these items here, you don't have to look at these if you don't want to. This is just there for your information. And unfortunately, my apologies, mine are taking a minute to pop up there. There it is. And this is basically very similar to what 1096s used to look like. And then lastly, you have a detailed report on here if you want to utilize this. This picks out a CSV file. So this could be this could be handy processing your bill backs. This comes out in CSV file. You can create formulas. I can count up the number that you're sending. So feel free to use it if you need. If not, you don't have to download it, whatever works best, again, for you and your team. And then if you're ready to go at this point, you're going to access on to payment. So next. And then here you're going to enter in your information to make payment with. It does have to be paid up front. When you're done, you click Pay and Submit. Now this is credit card information because I'm on their dev team site, and this gave me a little processing error. Probably because, again, I'm using fake information with a fake credit card. All righty. So that's the basics for getting your tax data into Nelco for processing. Now, once you have processed, that doesn't mean everything's over and you can start high-fiving, as the IRS still has to accept the data that you are providing them. They'll give you some type of, hey, we received it, hey, we've accepted it. Those types of that type of information will come rolling back to you, and you'll be able to see that here in Nelco. Under the message center, it'll give you the update of, yes, you got it, yes, the IRS has it, and then the IRS has accepted it, or the IRS has rejected it, and you may have to resubmit again. So if at all possible, I would recommend giving yourself enough time to get your data uploaded into Nelco over to the IRS, give the IRS an opportunity to review it, possibly reject it. That way you can fix whatever you need to and then send it back over. That will show up here in your message center. Also, if you go to the form filing history, if you see where it says check status, that's a little clock here. You can click on that and it'll tell you what's going on with a particular order. Also in the form filing history, if you click on the little printer, this will take you to some more reports and you can choose individual vendors, you can choose entire associations, you can look at whatever it is that you want to look at. Click next. Then you can actually go in and print some additional forms and you also get a summary and a detailed report as well as a receipt. It'll tell you the format that it's coming out in. So again, if you needed some of this, you could utilize that to help do bill backs for your communities. All right, so I'm going to head back to the form filing history page. There's an opportunity if you wanted to email that, if vendor Bob calls and said, hey, I never got my so-and-so, you can click here and you could email that over to vendor Bob at this time, either by sending it to the email address that is already in here or changing it if they needed that. That is something you could do for them. And then lastly, kind of dovetails nicely into what if I need a correction? What if something got done incorrectly and I need to come back in and correct it? Maybe I accidentally sent a W-9 to a board member and they called and they're like, yeah, I don't need this W-9. Or whatever the issue is that you may need to do a correction. What you will do is you will come onto, again, the form filing history page in Nelco. You will click on the form that you need. So we're just going to grab this guy right here. I'm going to click on this pencil. And then I'm going to read through this page and I'm going to figure out which item that I need. Is it the wrong recipient, tax ID number, name and or address, or amount of filing, or a form type? Now, the only form types that we currently support are NECs and MISCs. So if you filed an NEC and it's the wrong form, I want to fix it here, it has to be through an MISC or vice versa. But let's just go with wrong amount of filing. I'll click on that section and then it'll take me here. All right, so that one I can't correct. So let's find one we can correct. Back to form filing history. Let's start with this guy down here. Okay. So once you've chosen the option that you want, you'll come over here on the forms in progress page and you'll click on edit/view. And then you can come down here to where it says non-employee compensation, and then you can make whatever that change is. So either 2,000 because I put the wrong amount in, or maybe I shouldn't have done it at all, so I can do a 0. I shouldn't have added anything. So whatever that is you need to do, when you're done, you're going to click next, and it does give you information on IRS instructions. You're going to see this little button popping up throughout Nelco. So if you have questions, if you want to double check you're doing something right, go ahead and click here. And then when I'm done, next, and just work my way back through the process, make any payments I need to make, and then go back for it. And again, it's yeah, I'm getting these errors because again, I'm using fake money to pay for fake forms. Alrighty, so that is most of what I wanted to go through with Nelco. I spent a bit more time than I thought we might need in case you had questions or anything else that might pop up. But that was pretty much all I had that I really wanted to go through, and the rest of the time is going to be for you guys to ask questions. What I will do, I have a couple of more pieces of information. Just some questions that might come up. First one often is the pricing, and I showed you how to find that on the how it works page. If you have questions about filing deadlines, you filing deadlines here, so you can connect to the irs.gov. If you work with the CPA, you might run that by the CPA to see what they recommend. We would not be able to help you with filing deadlines. We can just tell you the right buttons to click Next up, how will I know the IRS has accepted my file? You'll get an email indicating acceptance, and then you can go again to the filing home. You can go to the form filing history page, and you can click on the clock, and it will give you the most up-to-date filing information. How will I be notified if the IRS rejects any part or all of my file? Rejections, will show up in the message center on the home page, and you should receive an email as well. I did not mention that earlier, but yeah, it'll get you an email. You'll also get pop up in the message center on the home page, which is right here. What if I need to file a correction? And we just went over that. What is going to be on the form file history page? And you're going to click on the pencil right here, and it'll take you back through those steps. And when you're done, you're good. How many logins can I have in Nelco? Nelco recommends for security purposes, you have one login per company, not per association, but per company. How long can I view filing information in Nelco? Nelco will keep 3 years of history available and another 4 years of backup. How do I build these items back to our associations? We recommend using our buildbacks module. So I'll pop over there real quick. And that's on the activities, buildback, setup, and buildback metric. You can create a manual metric. I go into page actions, metric, manual, and then you can either enter this once you enter that information on the metric, where in the GL you want it to hit, how much you want to charge per item, however that works. Once you've saved that, pull that into a template, and then when you're entering your billbacks for that period, you can either A, manually enter them for each association, or you can also import with a spreadsheet, and that's going to be on this billback page. Just grab a random one we have here. There will be an option if you hover over page actions and import data to allow you to import a spreadsheet with that information on it. And you can drop files into CSV format in Nelco. So you can go in, get your information counted and or billed, put it into the columns that are needed and import it into our billback template. So if you have questions on that, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help with that. All right. So if you have questions, let me get back over to Nelco. Your best option is to go to help. And then you have some items where we have frequently asked questions. We have a knowledge base. We also have a license agreement if you're wanting to review that again, but that should be something you review when you sign up. If you need help from uManage, feel free to reach out to ticket@unified.net, and we'll help you with whatever we can. And if you need to go to Nelco and get some additional help, I'm doing that either. What we can help you on are items having to do with the software itself, how to get something to process through, maybe where to find the fix to make an error message go away. We can't help you too much with who you're filing for, could you file this one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When filing dates are. We can help you get everything squared away in uManage. Any other information doesn't have anything to do with either Nelco or uManage, we'd recommend either going to the irs.gov or speaking with a CPA that you work with. All right, so that is all I had. So I'm going to go ahead and open the floor to any questions that you guys might have. And I'm going through and I'm asking you guys to unmute. So if you want to ask a live question, or you can still put a question in our questions tab. And I do see someone has, so I'm happy to get to that if you need just a moment. All right, so if you want to ask questions in our live session here, make certain that your mic is turned on and then just go ahead and ask the question. You can also just type it into the questions box again. And if you have a question after we dismiss, feel free to email it to ticket@unified.net and we'll get back to you with as much information as we can. Okay, a couple more of you guys to unmute, and then we are good. All right, so I have turned everyone's mic on. You just need to unmute if you want to ask a live question, but let's see what we got here. Would it be possible to get a rundown of Nelco filing instructions as a doc or PDF? That should be covered on Nelco and help. There'll be a knowledge base and frequently asked questions and answers. If you're getting stuck on something, we're happy to help as well. And I also gave you some additional documents in the materials section with some information that should be helpful as well. And then again, we're available for any other assistance that we can give you. All right, next up, the pricing under 644, is that per vendor? That is yes, that is per vendor per 1099. All right, is there a quick report that shows what was paid to vendors in the year? Yeah. So that is back in uManage, and yes, we do have a couple of reports. We'll show that to you. If you download some of those handouts that I gave you some helpful reports in there. So you can go to Reports AP, and I put this in there. So if you guys don't want to write this down right now, you can always consult that. But Reports AP, vendor transactions is a good one. You can list payments for a year. What's another one? Invoice is also a good one that you can use, just depending on the parameters that you decide to pull up. So both of those are good options to look at. You can also go to Accounting AP, Manage Invoice. You can set pay date, switch that over to pay date. You can set that for 1/1/2025 to 12/31/2025. Click on that. It will pull up everything here, and then you can drop this into a spreadsheet if you prefer to do something like that. So there are a couple of different places in uManage to give you that type of information. So it just really depends on how you want to see it and how you want to use it. So my recommendation, just start with the reports here. You can make your way to this page, take a look at those and see what gives you information that you're needing in the format that you're needing it. And just as a reminder, I mentioned dropping this into a spreadsheet, which you can do, but any of our reports that you can pull up, those can be dropped into a spreadsheet or a CSV file as well. So you can use those if you'd like. All right. Do we have anyone else who has any questions? Again, if you have questions after we adjourn, you are welcome to send those to ticket@unified.net, and I will get you an answer as soon as I can. Okay. Anyone else? I've answered everything dropped into the questions tab. So do you have any other questions we can answer? Do you want to just pop in and say hello? You can tell me your hopes and dreams. I'm here for it all. So it looks like we have some of our number have gone ahead and stopped dropping off. So I'm guessing you guys are ready to get back to your days. And I really appreciate the time that you spent with us here today. We know you have so much to do during your days at any time that you agree to give to us. We're very appreciative of. And feel free to reach out. Like I said, tickets@unified.net with any questions that you might have. And when you're ready to get your process started, feel free to let us know if you're having trouble, resolving any errors you might be getting. We're here to help. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to go ahead and shut down. Thanks, guys.